welcome everyone for coming. This is, I know, been a challenging time, what with all the floods and the rain and all the reunions and everything going on. It's great to see everybody here for our third of 4 in our speakers series. And I'm going to be short, and I just want to say thank you for coming. Thank you to our website sponsors because they help make all this possible. And you guys for coming and helping us with a mission that keeps our Archives and Records Center open as well as our museum. And I hope you come by the museum where we have some artifacts that will be very relevant to the presentation this evening. And it's open 3 days a week, so please do that. I want to turn this over to Harlan to introduce our speaker. Harlan.
Okay, thank you, President Cindy. That's her part for the night. No, she's got another part back there.
Back there.
No, I just want to quickly introduce Jerry Poppenhaus. A lot of you probably know Jerry. Some of you, I'm sure, don't. Jerry was 58. Graduate of Owensville High School. And a basketball player of renown at the time. Those of you that remember back then. And that was several years after I finished. What I want to tell you very quickly about Jerry is that, if you don't know it, he spent a career as a photojournalist and adequate description with the Phillips Oil Company, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. That's where he lives now. Jerry's been tells me, and I believe him, you can't help but believe him when you see all this. He's been involved in this archaeological activity since he was a little kid, and he has traveled, I think, every place in the world that I've heard of, and I don't know how many times, but he's been around, and he's had some fantastic experiences, I do know that. But more importantly for tonight, he's put together a really, what we think will be a terrific, interesting program for those of us that are here, and we just really thank him for doing that for us. He's doing it at his own free will, and not everybody would do that, but Jerry's doing it, and we owe him a great vote of thanks for doing that. He's going to explain all this stuff around here, which you need to know a little bit about, and I'm sure interested. We have a handout that Jerry has also prepared. We're going to give this to you on the way out. That kind of summarizes, I think, a good part of what the program is tonight. But that's my introduction to Jerry, and Jerry, it's all yours. Take over.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's my honor to be here. I grew up here. Spent a lot of. I think I've ridden my bicycle on every road in Bartlesville. Back in the comic book days when we had comic books and we traded, and I have a basket full of comic books riding all over trading comic books. But, grew up on the Gasconade River by Bay, Missouri. My folks built a cabin down there, and at an early age, I started walking the fields and talking to the farmers and finding Indian artifacts. At some point, I don't remember, I think I was in high school, I went to work for the Missouri Archaeological Society excavating a Graham Cave. If you know, it's up on the interstate between Kansas City and St. Louis. I spent one summer, I was a grunt, the guy who has to carry all the dirt and the dust, and they had big sifting machines, and worked with Met Shippey, who is just was a great guy that worked for them, just super knowledgeable in archaeological things. And then my thesis in college was archaeology, and again I got to meet Met Shippey, went to his house. He lived outside of Kansas City, and did a program for the 3rd grade classes in Kansas City school system. And so I've been really involved, but I am an amateur archaeological person that just does this as a hobby. And most of my finds are from the Gasconade, what they call the Gasconade River Basin. And I found out not too long ago, this is a really unique area of the country. There was a group of Indians, and I'll do all this in a slideshow, but I want to preempt all of this by this little story of the Merrimack Indian people, and the archaeological people gave them this name. I'm sure that's not what they called themselves, but the Merrimack is spelled with an M-A instead of an M-E, were unique, and they were from the Archaic period. This part of the country, we had some Paleo people, and the Paleo is kind of the earliest people that we had here. There is pre-Paleo in the United States. I don't know if there's any there's probably some in Missouri somewhere. I know in Oklahoma we have some that date back, and all of this is carbon 14 plus or minus 1,000 years either way of 30,000 years ago. But here in Gaston County, it's safe to say 12,000 years ago, Paleo man was here on the Burbus River. They discovered a site on the Burbus River in Gasconade County, and we're not sure if it was Gasconade County or Phelps County, but it's real close. If it's not Gasconade County, it's close to Gasconade County where he found this, but nobody had ever seen this before. They found this big bone with a projectile point in it and some other artifacts, and what could be a bone, a leg bone that's, you know, over 3 feet long, with skin on it and other artifacts, and I think a lot of people just poo-pooed him and went, yeah, right, you know, sure, you found a bone this big. And anyway, it wasn't documented at all. That was in the 1800s. And in the I think it was 1935, some archaeological people in Clovis, New Mexico, or close to Clovis, New Mexico, found another mastodon with some human bone or artifacts in it, and they dubbed it the Clovis Point, and that's where Clovis is associated with the Paleo people today, but it should have been called the Bourbon Point, or at least Gasconade Point from this area. But anyway, they didn't document it. So let's go ahead and show this. I put these together for school children too. They're in QuickTime, so you can just put them in your player and play them. But so we're starting 16,000, 40,000 years ago. Big game hunters came to North America. Now there's just recently I read an article that has a lot of weight that they also came from Europe at about the same time. And the ice sheets, you have to imagine the United States covered with ice, the northern part was covered with ice, and so they could almost walk from Europe to Virginia on ice. And they found some paintings in caves in France of seals. They went, wait a minute, seals, ocean, so these people must have had boats, and they went out in the ocean and hunted seals, and if they went out far enough, they would run into the United States. And so there are more paleo sites on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast. So draw your own conclusion. We really talk about the Paleo period more than we do any of the pre-Paleo period because we don't have that much information on a lot of the earlier stuff. So the Paleo Indian gets more notoriety than probably anybody else. This area was really, really good because it had the Gasconade River Basin is part of what they call the Ozark Highland area, which covers this part of the country. And guess what? It's full of rivers, full of caves, full of fresh water, and all of that attracts game, so they had plenty to eat. The BP stands for before present, so you don't have to start figuring out how old things are. We have the Paleo Indian as a period, the Archaic, the Woodland, and the Mississippian period. And each of these is subdivided into 3 periods, early, middle, and late. I'm going to cover mainly the Paleo and the Archaic, and we'll get into Woodland and Mississippi in a little bit. Paleo period, roughly in this part of the country, 11,500 to 9,900 years ago. And that's actually what a person looked like. They reconstructed the skull over there, so you get a pretty good idea of what at least one person looked like. this is associated with the mastodon, and there's mastodons and mammoths, and they were two different species of animals. And they're, mainly the difference is one was a browser, one was a grazer. So,
Excuse me, could you turn the music down and interfering with hearing?
Here.
good idea. We don't have to have it on at all.
That's good. Yeah, you're better. Thank you. We like you better.
So, these big creatures get a lot of press because they're exotic, they're big. It took a lot of people to kill them. But let's face it, these people, their diet wasn't mastodons. They didn't live off of mastodons. They ate a lot of other things. They ate berries, they ate rabbits, they ate whatever, they ate mussels out of the Gasconade River. There is a theory that this was more of a, when men get together and hunt, it's kind of, they come back to the campfire and go, hey man, look at that, look what I killed. And this was more of that. They probably killed one mastodon maybe a year, and they talked about it for 4 years. Being men, you know, sitting around the campfire. But they did kill them because we did the Gasconade, the mastodon kill here on the Bourbous River was the first evidence in the United States of humans associating with these large creatures. That was the first evidence anywhere in this part, in the United States, but it wasn't documented. So, they were nomadic because the Ice Age was succeeding, a lot of dust storms. When the ice is gone, there's no vegetation, a lot of dust storms. The dust created bogs and mud where these large animals would get trapped in. They moved up and down the rivers looking for food, so they would stay in one place until they needed to go somewhere else to look for food. So they traveled in tribes between 20 and 60 people carrying their belongings on their back. Plenty of caves, right, around Gasconade. They did build some crude shelters. They decided where to camp, depending on, obviously, this is all pretty much duh, you know, I mean, you're going to go where the food is. Painting of, he's using a tool or weapon called an addle. And the Clovis Point, and there's a Folsom Point. The 2 points are associated with paleo people. The Folsom Point has a flute going all the way down it, and the Clovis Point only going part way down. But these are pretty unique, and again, there's theories that these were made from really kind of precious flint that were more symbolic than anything else, because all of the people on the East Coast and West Coast, any place you find Clovis people, you're going to find these Clovis points, and they're all made the same. Now, later on in the Archaic period and the Woodland period, they didn't make, the Archaic people didn't make the same point over and over and over and over. They made different kind of points. And the question is, why did the paleo people only make this one kind of point? Not just in New Mexico or Gasconade County or in Virginia where they have some big sites. So we don't know. Flaking, they would find flint, which we got a lot of flint around here. And there's 2 ways to make it. They can heat it and make it, or just take a big stone and start flaking it out into big pieces, and then fine tune it with a deer antler like I got over there.